largest labor center and most representative trade union in Kenya, and third in membership on the continent of Africa, if you can give us an opportunity and extend your judgment with 7 days, my lady. I'm appealing to you that I will directly get involved. And as a person who is a bad loser, I'm a bad loser, I don't like losing. I will try my level best, together with the leadership of Doctors Union, to find a solution within 7 days. That is my prayer, my lady, and that is the prayer of Kenyan workers. And I think that would be the prayers of all those who have appeared before you. Lastly, my lady, as a senior citizen of this country, I just beg that you hear me and you let me intervene on behalf of Kenyan workers. I thank you, my lady.
I apologize for walking in links. Washika. I appear with Mr. Chenge for the union.
On behalf of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, we wish to echo the sentiments by the Court Secretary General, Francis Atwoli. Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is a constitutional commission whose mandate is the enforcement of the right to health. We have been in discussion with the doctors with a view of finding an amicable solution so that ordinary members, the common Mwananchi, who is directly affected by this strike, can get health services. We have talked with them at length and will be pleading with you to suspend the sentence as they have showed and indicated that they are willing to find an amicable solution, save for the fact that there has not been an intervener or a mediator. So the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights would like to be admitted as an amicus so that it can offer mediation between the warring services on behalf of the common Mwananchi. So we pray that we suspend for more few days the sentence. We appreciate the seriousness of contempt of court, but as the two parties continue with the standoff, it is that child, it is that woman, it is that vulnerable member of the society who is affected. So we indulge you, so we pray that we suspend the sentence pending efforts by the Court Secretary General and the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. The reason why we came to come this late is because we never thought that 60 days would last when doctors who are supposed to be in hospitals are treating Kenyans for the So that's all for now, unless you have a question that would like me to clarify.
Let me hear from the other parties. Ms. Lumalas, we are getting interventions, but my ruling is ready. I've opened it and I'm ready to read it. And I may as well read it and let the interventions continue outside my court. And but I like to hear from you.
My lady, I'm standing with a lot of heaviness. Good intervention and a lot of respect for such a distinguished Kenyan, the Honorable Secretary General, Dr. Francis Atwoli, and the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. What I'm wondering is that why wait for 60 days? You have been seeing what has been happening in full broadcast. If you've attended some of the negotiation meetings, and I have, you could have seen the grandstanding by the union officials who probably basic negotiation and mediation or ADR skills are lacking, which are very crucial. And maybe that's where the KOTU can come in. When unions are formed, the officials must be taken through a process of learning to negotiate, in good faith. Why 60 days, my lady? So in my view, we've come here for a ruling. I don't really want to be seen to be opposing this a lot, because if indeed there's a likelihood of a solution, everyone would like that. But just the mockery of the court, my lady, the mockery of the judiciary, my lady, and it will look like a circus after today, really. So we cannot also apprehend what you're going to rule. You have your ruling ready. In all honesty, I don't think there's been an industrial relations court like this one. You have been most indulgent. You took the union officials into your arms, I remember, on 13th of December, and took them through what, in my view, was a very good explanation on what they are required to do. Kenya National Human Rights Commission was there, and I really think they have, I've never seen a commission like this for this particular term. I think they have been very much asleep, this commission, for this period. And with due respect as well, I had KOTU advise the union at some point, but it was, I watched it on TV, but I think no advice was taken, and I appreciate his intervention. But I think that's as much as I want to say. Today we've come for a ruling. We are ready for the ruling. They can still negotiate after your ruling. I don't think there's a bar to negotiation. It's not fair to the court as well. It's not fair to the courts. Let's respect the processes that we have under the Constitution. That's all I want to say.
The Honorable the Attorney General.
My lady, I also echo the sentiments of my colleague Lumalas. My lady, the reason we are in this court today is to receive your ruling. My lady, there was an application which was had, and we wish to appreciate that ruling. If there are these interventions which look to be in good spirit, my lady, would appreciate them, but let them come after the ruling, my lady. And it should be noted that the court already found the doctors in contempt, and it rendered its sentence. It only suspended it, my lady. So you cannot be asked to suspend the sentence today. It is already suspended. It was already delivered, my lady. So we would appreciate to receive this ruling today, my lady. If it is postponed, then I don't know what we'll be doing in this country, my lady. It will be injuring the justice of the Kenyans who are suffering, who cannot even access the medical services because of this stalemate.
We are set.
Yes, my lady, just a brief comment. I appreciate that the court indeed has indulged the parties extensively. We do not take any of that lightly. My lady, we wish to just point out that indeed, as echoed by the Attorney General, these officials have already been punished. Now, beyond that, my lady, the question of how do we resolve the issues and what would resolve the issues? We cannot preempt what is in your ruling, my lady, but in the event that these officials proceed to serve the sentence, the effect is that there will be no person to negotiate with, even as we try to reach amicable solutions as proposed by our council. There will be no leadership for the union to engage in those discussions. Therefore, my lady, my opinion would be it will be wise, and it is within your power to give directions, because the essence is that they already have the sentence upon them. But my lady, even with the sentence, there's need to resolve, because it is Kenyans who are suffering. There's need to find a way that that can be resolved. We are ready to take it.
My learned colleague Mr. Washika's sentiments, and we thank the court because it has really indulged the respondents. And my view is that the respondents are needed to be present during this negotiation for this matter to be resolved. And the best thing is to extend the suspended sentence and not to put them behind bars where they cannot be accessible, and it will be able to resolve this matter. That is all. Thank you.
Last word from the Secretary General.
As my leaders I had indicated that as authority in industrial relations practice in this country and globally, kindly, as I repeat again, kindly give us more days, and I have asked specifically 7 days. We will endeavor to make sure that we reach a solution. And I want to thank you once again, as I did, and those who are involved. We are aware of what Kenyans are doing, and that is why we have taken it upon ourselves to get involved. My lady, court house is experts in industrial relations practice, just like the Minister of Labor. And that is why we are appealing that within these 7 days, we will be in a position to reach a solution. If we base our negotiations on the two elements of negotiating in good faith, trust, and give and take basis. And I'm sure able to report back to this honorable court a solution that we would have reached, or a solution reached by parties. Just want to appeal to Kenyans at large that now, as a central organization of trade unions, including those who are involved in this particular dispute, that we will, and I want to assure Kenyans that we will, as I have said, endeavor, take our time, and make sure we reach a solution on this matter. This is purely an industrial relations matter, and that is why we are here, my lady. And it should be viewed in that direction, that this is a matter of a collective bargaining which has so many clauses, and we look into all those clauses one by one, make sure that within 7 days we have a solution for that. And as I said, I for one am a bad loser. I wouldn't like losing. Therefore, I will try day and night to make sure that we have reached a solution. And therefore, my lady, kindly, and I did say as a senior citizen, as an elder, kindly let us suspend this sentence with a view of trying our level best to reach amicable solution on this matter. The union concerned is our affiliate, and that is why we are here, my lady. Thank you.
Officials, I want to see you all, and I want to put it on record that you are present. All of you, are you present? Is there anyone missing? Let me say this, the duty of this court in the long run is to find a solution to the problem. Are you getting me? Yes. So the duty of this court in the long run is to find a solution to the problem. I'm now seeing interventions, albeit a little bit late, from the Secretary General of Kotru, whom I also hold in high respect, being the senior-most trade unionist in this country as the Secretary General, and also seeing the Kenya Human Rights Commission coming in also too late, because as the Kenya Human Rights Commission, you're also supposed to ensure that human rights are adhered to. But you have been sitting back and doing nothing also up to today when you are appearing at the last moment. I know that the image of the court is also at stake, and the court cannot be taken for granted forever. It must ultimately put its word and stamp its feet and finish off this case, because a case must come to an end. We cannot let it continue forever. But the intervention that I'm seeing today is a very welcome intervention from the Secretary General of Kotru and the Human Rights Commission. And I believe there could be other interventions that could really resolve this problem, which interventions have not yet come. And therefore, I'll still exercise my discretion. The ruling is ready and I want to read it. But exercising my discretion, I'll want to give these interventions a chance. The new interventions that are coming in today, I'll want to give them a chance. And therefore, these are my directions. That a meeting will be convened under the leadership of the Secretary General of Kotru, Mr. Francis Atwoli, can be co-chaired by the Kenya Human Rights Commission. And I want this meeting to include the following parties: the Council of Governors, the Attorney General, the Kenya Medical Practitioner and Dentist Union, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Labor, SRC, and my directions are that this meeting must be held as soon as possible, as soon as yesterday. Mr. Atwoli, you have said that you never lose. I hope you not lose this battle, because I'm entrusting this issue to your hands to resolve it. and report back to this court within 7 days, as you have asked. I want to say that we cannot have the entire Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union officials in this meeting, which means that every organization that I've mentioned will be able to bring 2 or 3 people at most on the table. Only 2 or 3 on the table to talk. Because when you have the whole group like they are standing in court, they cannot negotiate. Negotiations cannot go on with everybody present. There must be a few people who will be able to talk on behalf of the rest.
Madam, I'm appealing that you include the Federation of Kenya Employers. Thank you.
FKE. So the people I'm putting on the table from this moment, because I haven't been invited into it, I've been asking for an invitation, I've not been invited. Today I've been invited to try and resolve this issue. KOTU, Kenya Human Rights Commission, the government agencies.
It's Kenya National.
Kenya National?
There is Kenya National Commission on Human Rights.
Kenya National Commission on Human. So which one is yours?
Kenya National Commission on Human Rights.
Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, the Council of Governors, the Attorney General, the union officials, the Ministry for Finance, FKE, SRC. Who else have I left out? I think Public Service Commission. Those are the agencies I've stated who will be included in this meeting, and I'm talking and I'm saying who is going to be present. Those officials I'm saying, the Ministry of Health is under the Public Service Commission. So if the Public Service Commission is there, the Ministry of Health is there. And the AG is there, the Ministry of Health is there. The AG is standing in for all of them. So all this will come in, and I've said 7 days. If Mr. Atwoli will let me down, I'm extending this job to you. I'll proceed because the ruling is ready and deliver my ruling on Monday, the 13th of February. So we mentioned this matter on 13th of February. The sentence is further suspended, and don't take this court for granted thinking that suspension is cowardice. It is not. This court has wide powers, but it's also exercising these powers with mercy and justice. So don't take it for granted. By 13th of February, if there is no solution, the court will make its statement. And that is the order of this court. Thank you all for coming.
That was nice, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
We are looking forward.
We hope you're here, so we're tired.
Right now I want to go with
Seven days. From now.
Well, as you can hear outside the Milimani Commercial Court, the cheer of the doctors who have been given another 7-day reprieve after Judge Helen Wasilwa having given them 7 days and asking the court chairman Francis Atwoli to mediate immediately and ensure that in another 7 days he will be in a position to go back to the same court and give them a deal that will be signed. The Lady Justice has asked the court to Secretary General to have KNHCR, the Council of Governors, the Attorney General, the KMPDU officials, the Finance Ministry, the Public Service Commission, the FKE and the SRC to be in a meeting that is expected to be constituted immediately. This instructions coming as the court saying that it will not be intimidated or taken for granted any longer. They expect that a decision will be made, coming at the backdrop of the fact that the doctor strike has been happening for the last 61 days now. The doctors union officials were expected to be jailed today. They were ready, they were in the dock. Others were really looking forward to having this day in court. They had a whole day planned. They were expected to have a vigil outside the particular jails where they would be taken this morning. However, that will not be able to happen as it was expected earlier. This is a big day for the KMPD officials who are ready to go to jail for a month. The judge having suspended this issue for another 7 days, as she believes it is expected in good faith to ensure that nothing goes wrong again. This being the third suspension in as many days. The lawyers from the COG saying that the court is being taken for granted. We saw Court Secretary General Francis Atwoli coming in early this morning and saying that albeit he is a bit too late for coming in for any intervention. However, he says that it's never too late to come to an amicable agreement. 61 days and counting. It will be another 68 days of the doctor strike before we find any solution to the current problem. It is believed that the Council of Governors was expected to announce that they wanted new personnel to work in the public sector. However, doctors insist that most of these doctors who purportedly would be expected to hand in their applications are all on strike. Many are in the private sector. The doctors have insisted that they want nothing less than the CBA that was signed in 2013. We've seen the court and many other public officials insist that that particular document is not admissible in court. It was not registered in court in 2013 when it was first signed. However, the doctors insist that it is a legitimate document. Now, what is happening now, it is expected that Court Secretary General Francis Atwoli will be able to go to the drawing table immediately as a matter of urgency to bring to the table all these members. The Judge Helen Wasilwa insisting that she expects not more than 3 members from each of the services to be able to come to the negotiating table and meet and burn the midnight oil, as it were, and ensure that the doctor strike is something of the past. As we are aware, the nurses also have threatened to go on strike. The lecturers strike as we speak, 16 days now and counting. Probably we see probably a white smoke or a light at the end of the tunnel. It is expected that probably Francis Atwoli will be the man to deliver good news to the country in the next 7 days. For now, doctors are outside singing and chanting as they have done for the past 2 months when this case has been going on. They are expecting their leaders to come down and address them and find a way forward. However, within that particular moment, some of them are saying by not having all of them, the 7 inside that negotiating table, probably could be a divide and rule issue. However, the judge insists that she just needs a few people to come to the negotiating table and see whether they will be in a position to finally come to an agreement, having not reached any after meeting President Uhuru Kenyatta on January the 4th this year. They met the Cabinet Secretary for Health in as many sessions. They met the CS for Labor, Phyllis Kandie, in an entire week of negotiations back and forth. They were not able to bear any fruit. Particularly, they were saying they want exactly nothing less than 300% in terms of what they agreed in the CBA. They say it's more than just money, specifically They want things to do with remuneration. They want to have better studies. They want to be given an opportunity to expound on their careers. They want, when they walk into the emergency room, they have proper facilitation to ensure that they're capable and 100% in a position to ensure that they save a life to the best of their abilities. Now, this event this morning has changed the game, particularly in different ways, because it was expected that the court would finally give a final decision and state the decision and state that probably they would want to have the leaders jailed. However, it is believed that the court, in its wisdom, because Lady Justice Helen Wasilwa had on previous occasions stated that she wanted to be invited into this session. She wanted to mediate and to ensure that this case has finally been served. As we are rolling over, we are seeing Court Chairman Francis Atwoli ready to speak to members of the press. Let's listen in.
Sawa. Bado inachoma. First and foremost, I want to thank the presiding Judge, Lady Wasilwa, Lady Justice Wasilwa, are the apex national labor center in this country, and also being led or an elder or an in labor matter to reach a solution within 7 days. And what the judge has done is what the office of the president would have done so many years, for so many months ago. We wouldn't have been here today if the government would have constituted a round table of interministerial players in industrial relations practice. And I'm sure that the court, that my intervention I'm sure, and I want we will try to make sure this. I've also reminded the court two elements. One is that the second one based on give and take basis, and then after duration of 2 years, we will be back again negotiating, and they can be in a position to overhaul a collective bargaining agreement after they have entered into a return to work formula, of which we are going to fight and strive and make sure that they enter into a return to work formula. Kenyans are suffering, everybody is suffering, including we as workers, because of this strike. And equally as we suffer, we must also consider positive responses from the government. And that is why we have taken it upon ourselves as the Central Organization of Trade Unions, labor leaders, to make sure, and after my colleagues had asked me to appear on their behalf and plead with the court to do so. And happily enough, the court consented to my plea and agreed to extend the sentence. But I thought,
Mr. Sekjen, KTN News. Perhaps the question would be why the shouldn't.
because they have their own arrangements, their own constitutions, and their own internal experts on collective bargaining. Then when both parties were still meeting, we come in normally when there is a big stalemate and when we have been invited to do so. That is why we didn't come in at early stages. They were still negotiating. They had an opportunity to explore every clause in their collective, in their perceived collective bargaining agreement. That is why we didn't want to come in earlier.
Perhaps what will you do different? We've seen different sectors try and mediate, including the Ministry of Labour and even the courts. What difference will you add to the negotiations that will bring the doctors from the streets and back to work?
Now, right now we are going to put several authorities on the table for the doctors to see, and we are also going to widely consult when we are with them together. And I'm sure positively after they have seen that, and we will compare with other organizations of similar nature. We are going to compare other collective bargaining agreements and how they have been negotiated. We are going back to the historical background of collective bargaining, and I think with that big exposure, we will be able to reach somewhere.
Mr. Atwoli, today you have been given the authority of over 4,000 doctors. Are you promising Kenyans by the end of 7 days we will have a solution? That will be 60 days after they began. They have met every possible office without bearing any fruit.
I want to assure you that if it is a straightforward negotiation based on good faith and trust and based on give and take basis, as it is a motto or a way forward within collective bargaining or negotiating, we will be able to reach an amicable solution. Anything out of negotiating in good faith and based on give and take is politics. So I'm sure if we base on the principles of true and sure collective bargaining, we will be able to reach an amicable solution. We have been given 7 days. It might be even today, tomorrow, or before 7 days elapses. Sawa?
Thank you.
You have the Secretary General of Kotu, Francis Atwoli, being categorical there and saying that he expects that all parties to come to the negotiating table with an open mind. He says anything else that will be above what his expectations will just be politics as usual. As you can hear in the background, doctors, the cheer and the roar of doctors chanting and celebrating this purported victory. Their 7 KMPDU officials having not to go to jail for another 7 days, as now their fate hangs in the hands of one Mr. Francis Atwoli, who says any time from now he is expected to meet with the parties that he has been asked to meet with. These are the Council of Governors. The Public Service Commission is expected to be at that negotiating table. The Ministry of Finance, which is the exchequer of the government, to also be part and parcel of that meeting. It is expected that somebody from the Office of the Attorney General will be part and parcel of this negotiations. There are expected to be 3 or 2 members from the Kenya KMPDU who will be able to sit on that table. Mr. Atwoli's time is ticking. He just has 7 days exactly to be able to deliver something positive, not only for Judge Helen Wasilwa and the Court of Labor Relations, but for Kenyans at large. It will be 68 days by the time he comes back to this court, probably on February the 10th, where it is expected that he will be able to give the noble judge a progress report of what will have come from that particular meeting. As at now, members are speaking to the KMPDU officials who have just not lost the battle, but now it is a good day not only for Kenyans but for doctors. I hand over back to you, Gladys. It is expected that there will be a lot of happenings. The doctors probably will go for a vigil and a lot more in terms of now coming back to the negotiating table and ensuring that this particular meeting that is led by Francis Atwoli will bear some fruit. Gladys.
Leila Mohammed, thank you. Speaking to us from the Labor Relations Court at Milimani Law Courts, where Justice Helen Wasilwa has just directed that she first has suspended that sentence to the 13th of February yet again. Remember, this is the third time she's suspending that sentence of 7 union officials, and they were supposed to have gone to jail a month ago, but she has suspended that sentence for the third time now. Now, she has given conditions, though, to this suspension. She says directions that will follow in the next 7 days is that she expects that there should be an ministerial meeting that should be convened under Kotu. And of course, as we know, that judgment was following an intervention by Kotu Secretary General Francis Atwoli. She has asked that the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights should be on the table. Council of Governors should also come to the table. The Attorney General should also come to the table. The union officials, Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Labor should also come onto the table. But we take you back to the field where we shall be listening in on what's happening with the doctors.
That will be Monday.
So therefore, I'm putting it out to the open, to all our members and to the public, to know that starting here, everyone must negotiate. And if any deal is going to be reached, it will only be because even the government decides to negotiate and to move. When you negotiate, it's a give and take. And let it be very clear that the union has conceded so much and they are now at 0. They cannot concede any further. And therefore, we ask the other side to also do the same. We can only find a solution. We can only find a solution if we come to the table with absolute honesty. And that is what has been lacking. Honesty has been lacking in the side of government. People come in, they tell you this, tomorrow they come, they change the story. And they blame the union. We cannot be all the time the ones to be blamed for the issue. So we are saying very clearly right now that let it be understood. We are here at 60 days because the government has not moved an inch. 61 days now because the government has not moved an inch. And we are very saddened that this matter has gone on so long when people are running around, gathering votes and getting people to register. I've even seen some telling their constituents to leave their hospital beds and go and register and come back to a hospital without a doctor. That is a shame. So we are telling this government that these people who are going to vote for you should be healthy first of all and should be alive when the voting time comes. And if the doctors are not at work, then these people will not be there to vote for you. So you better take care of their health first before you tell them to take a voter's card so that they'll be there to vote for you. Let's be Kenyans. Let's own Kenya. Let's all love Kenya. Let's not leave it to others to love Kenya while others destroy it. Thank you very much.
Haya, sasa ni chairman, semeni the rock. Haya.
Madaktari mupo? Hamjambo? Mine is very brief. We want to appreciate doctors of the Republic of Kenya who have served this country with a lot of resilience, with a lot of humility and hard work for the last 50 years plus of independence. Doctors have worked through very difficult conditions with poor pay and the carelessness from the employers who don't care about the welfare of Kenyans and the welfare of the health of Kenyans that they serve. I must say that the governments exist to serve the people, not the people to serve the government. And this must be demonstrated by the leadership of any state. We appreciate and we respect the courts, and we want to make it very clear that there is no day we have disrespected the courts. And we appreciate the wisdom of the courts, and also appreciating that a solution can only come through negotiation and not through litigation. And this particular stalemate can only be solved if the parties involved can come together and reach an amicable solution, and not by the union being pushed to be the only one to negotiate with itself and provide a solution. Wait. And we want to appeal to all Kenyans that doctors in this country love you Kenyans. We serve you each and every day. And we equally understand the suffering which you have been put through for the last 61 days by your own government, by our government. And that time has come that the leadership of the country must demonstrate steadymanship and offer solutions that are aimed at bringing sanity to the health sector. We have even seen cartels now coming out to protest the implementation of the CBA. And we have seen these cartels even voicing their concerns, declaring our CBA illegal, yet these are issues which were determined by the courts on 6th of October 2016. We want to tell them, keep off from our issues. And those cartels, we know you, we are coming after you. We know you have been using this opportunity of a run-down public health sector to make your big profits in the private sector. And we cannot sit and watch as you run down our sector in this country. Finally, we are committed to a solution. We are ready for negotiations as we have always been, and forever we are ready to involve any parties who are only concerned with giving doctors what they deserve and not what the government deserves. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Wacha apite kwanza tuendelee, si ndio? Wacha Atwoli apite. Nyamazeni please, wacha apite. Wacha tu.
Atwoli ana support offers.
Ngoja, nyamaza.
You are still on strike. I'm the one who will call up.
Nivo. Ai, kiroli kaya citizen.
We've been listening in to the KMPDU, Chairman Samuel Oroko reacting to today's judgment. Of course, they are throwing accusations at the government, blaming them for not being serious about the mediations that have been going for the last couple of weeks now. And they say they are coming to the table ready to work out a plan to end the industrial strike, but the government seems not to be serious about it. And there seems to be more reactions coming from outside that labor relations court at Milimani Law Courts. Let's listen in.
Yeah, is quite sad. You know, the union is not the only one with a solution, as Dr. Daisy said. And in negotiations, if I'm at position 1 and the other party is at position 3, and they stick at 3 and they expect me to move to 0, it's not possible. That is not negotiating. So we are ready to negotiate in good faith, and we are asking the other side to also negotiate in good faith. So in that short, I'll do what we normally do best. We'll do it in English, and then tutamaliza na Kiswahili. Sawa sawa. I, a doctor in the Republic of Kenya,
I, a doctor in the Republic of Kenya,
do solemnly swear that
I
shall protect my profession and dignity
the
same way I took an oath to protect the citizens of Kenya. So help me God. Mimi daktari wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Na hapa ya kwamba nitailinda kazi yangu kama nilivyokula kiapo kumlinda mwananchi. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu nisaidie. I think now that I'm the deputy, I will let the Secretary General of the Union, Dr. Ouma Oluga, to address you. Thank you.
It's okay. It is you. Oluga akija, sote tuko tayari. Akija pande zote, pokea, sote tuko tayari. Sawa, tumpokee sasa. Pande gani? Mimi ni dark. Mimi ni Mkenya. Between a rock and a hard place. Good morning, doctors.
Good morning.
Habari zenyu? CBA? CBA? Thank you very much this morning for joining us in court. I think in the last 2 months, doctors may have attended court more times than even the regular court users. And it's okay, we are being schooled on the law, but I think we are also schooling people on a few things that they have to do. So this morning, I think we were here again. As you know, we have been subjected to unnecessary court processes, which in essence do not solve the problem that the doctors put on the table. Doctors are still on strike. Today, day 61. That means for over 2 months, doctors have been on strike. And I think it is not right for anyone in this country, public, government, any organization, to think that doctors would have been on strike for 2 months for nothing. And I want to assure you, doctors, that for us, we respect the law and we will obey what has been put before us in terms of mediation. But I also want to tell you that we went on strike for one thing, right? Yes. And that is? CBA. So we are very grateful that the court today has given the power to other people. And that power is to implement the The CBA. If there is any thought that doctors will go back to work, that's not a solution. In fact, doctors will not go back to work until that CBA is implemented. So we want to tell all the authorities that have been given the power by the court, and we know and we've engaged them, and we want to appeal to them and all Kenyans that the solution is the implementation of the CBA, and that we have to negotiate in good faith. We have been subjected to very dishonest and a very callous argument from many agencies in government whose only bargaining tool is that doctors should go back to work. Hao wenyewe hawana utu, hao wanataka madaktari wakuwe na utu. Na sisi tuko na utu. Hao ndio wamekosa utu. Kwa sababu hao wameswear to defend the constitution and they are violating the constitution. But as you have seen over the last 2 months, and you doctors, we've told you, tunaona hii mambo ni hot potato. Sasa msijali hata siku 7 ikifika na bado hatuna solution. When there is no deal, there is no deal. When there is no deal, there is no deal. Okay? Sasa na sisi tumejua when there is a deal. Si ni ukweli? Sasa there will be no going back to work when there is no deal. So we are just telling these people, and we are appealing to them, the Kenya National Commission for Human Rights particularly, because we have engaged with them extensively. And we are having the same interest in terms of ending human suffering. That is what we trained to do as doctors. Yes. We didn't train to come and stand outside Milimani law courts and address people. We trained to treat. And we are proud to do that. And we will be back to work, but we will be back to work when the demands of doctors are met. And therefore, in the next 7 days, we as a union will engage again as we have engaged before. Whether they choose 1 person or 2 people. Sahi hata uchukue tu daktari moja kutoka wapi. The message is the same. Ni CBA. Sasa wewe kama uko na message yako ingine ya return to work, hiyo hatutaki sisi ni CBA. So we are requesting the country that we have a window of 7 days. 7 days is too long for those guys who are seeking healthcare in public services and not finding it. 7 days is too long, even for us the doctors who have waited for 4 years for our CBA to be implemented, right? If there are people who have been patient, it's the doctors. And therefore, we hope that people will engage in pure good faith. We have engaged, but people come with only one stand. And the government has refused to move at all. Because what we are talking about is an implementation matrix. We have presented over the last 2 months over 7 different scenarios and 7 different ways in which the CBA can be implemented. I think it is not right to force doctors back to work when their demands have not been met. And therefore, today, I want to tell the public that sometimes there are a number of people who speak. Most of those people have interest. We saw some people in the Senate also speaking. Sindio? Na tukiangalia huko nyuma, the first ako na hospitali, lakini hata sio hiyo. Mnakumbuka ile NHIF scandal yenye ilikuanga ya kwanza? Nani alikuwa huko? Right? Sasa sisi tumesema private sector wamekuwa akisumbua kidogo. Na umeona the cartels are bringing the cartels are bringing their faces now on television, right? Yes. I think right now every single Kenyan know who the cartels are. Yes. The ones that are keeping their healthcare expensive, the ones that are making sure that public health sector is not restored back to normalcy. For us as a union, our stand is very clear. We want a better healthcare system that responds to the needs of the public and that responds to the needs of the doctor. There is no separation of doctors' rights from patients' rights. There is absolutely no separation of doctors' rights and patients' rights. Patients' rights are doctors' rights, and doctors' rights are patients' rights. And they are all health rights. Okay? So there is no greater deed to frustrate the doctor in the name of bringing sanity to the patient. The two are intertwined. And in the next 7 days, that is the message the public must be aware of. For us as a union, we have engaged with goodwill. We shall continue to do so. And for you as the doctors, I want to thank you because mmesimama kabisa. Mkasema mmesimama Imara kama KMPDU, si ndio? Tumesimama na tumesimama kwa sababu sisi tunataka sekta ya afya iboreshwe. Asanteni sana kwa kukuja. After this we shall engage. We have always been engaging and we know that there shall be a solution, and that solution is not doctors going back to work. That solution is the doctors' demands being addressed. Thank you. Madaktari, najua tuliwaambia kwa wale, naona mmekuja wengi sana, lakini unajua tulipoteza one of our colleagues who collapsed and was failed by the same healthcare system that we are trying to improve. And I also want to take this opportunity in honor of Dr. Eunice Songa, who we will be burying tomorrow in Kitale. And we will take this opportunity to have a moment of silence. 1 minute. Okay, thank you. Tomorrow we will be sending off our colleague, and we want to tell Kenyans that it is not okay for you to see wrong things and just assume, you know. People collapse in the streets every single day, but because we don't have ambulances that are reachable, because you go to hospitals and you want to assume things are okay as a Kenyan, that is how we lose our lives. And then we want to say, oh, it was God's will. Sometimes it's not God's will. I don't think God ever made a will that you should collapse in the streets and die without getting medical attention. And these are the things that we are talking about as doctors. Dr. Eunice Songa was with us in this struggle, and we shall respect her. That's why we told you maybe not to come to court, but because of the love you have for the CBA and for the union, we are very grateful that you're here. Tomorrow we shall be proceeding to Kitale to pay our last respects to her. Lastly, I want to invite any questions that there are, and then we shall disperse. No, today we are paying our last respects to our colleague, and therefore we shall not be having any marches or demos. Any other questions? Hakuna? Sasa watu pia waandishi wa habari, tafadhali muulize serikali kwa nini hao pia hawana solution. Sawa? Sio sisi, ni hao. Okay? Asante. Na waseme ukweli. Sawa? Asante. Guys, habari zenu. On behalf of Nairobi branch, asanteni sana kwa kuja. Now we disperse. Wanaoenda Kitale waende Kitale. We'll be traveling later on today to go bury our own sister. Then we'll be back. Sawa. God bless you. National anthem tukifunga. Sindio? Ngoja tutawaambia. Situimbe national anthem. Aya. 1, 2, go. Swahili. Mungu yetu ilete baraka kwetu, haki iwe ngao na mlinzi, na tukae na uhuru, amani na uhuru, raha tupate na ustawi. Thank you guys. God bless you. If you have a placard, iweke pale ipelekwe kwa union office.
So those are
tentatively on Tuesday.
Those are some of the doctors who came out outside Milimani courts in solidarity with the unions who are here to hear the hearing from the judge. And now, according to the doctors, they are saying that for the next 7 days, they will be engaging with the government at the negotiating table. But again, they are saying that they are blaming the government for not being consistent with what they were saying. According to them, the government has not been honest enough when they were negotiating. They always came, they were always swaying on exactly what they were bringing in the table. And according to them, they're not the ones on strike, but rather the Ministry of Health is the one on strike. They also took an oath by which they swore it, their professional oath, saying that they're going to stand by their oath. They'll still be there to serve Kenyans, but until the government meets their demands, and that is nothing less than the CBA 2013. According to them, they're not going to allow anything less than the CBA 2013. That has to be met before they actually report back to work and continue to serve Kenyans in public hospitals. Back to you, Gladys.
Aaron Baranga speaking to us from outside the Milimani Law Courts. A lot of activity going on there as doctors had convened in support of the 7 KMPDU union officials who were in court today to know the verdict coming from Justice Helen Wasilwa. Now, out of that hearing, Justice Wasilwa has actually, for the third time in a row, suspended the jail term handed to the 7 doctors union officials for 7 days to allow mediation by, among others, Kotu, KNCHR, that's the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, Council of Governors, AG, the union officials, Ministry of Finance, FKE, PSC and SRC. She has said everyone should come on to the table. At least 3 members of these entities should be involved in these negotiations to make sure that they find an amicable solution to this to the strike that is actually in its 61 days. Now we cross over back to the Milimani courts where Leila Mohammed is standing by. Leila?
Well, it is a small crowd per se outside the Milimani commercial courts. However, that has not deterred the doctors to come out vuvuzela blazing and being enthusiastic per se to celebrate another win for their leaders, having been given another 7 days to be able to go back to the negotiating table. We've seen the Kotu Secretary General, who has been given the mandate to be the main mediator, him to be co-chaired with the KNHCR. They were here today in court and they said they were pleading with the court to mediate and to be in the middle, right in the center of this controversy that has been going on for the last 61 days now. He says that he's willing to prepare a meeting anytime from now. It could be today, tomorrow. However, the judge has said that he wants this to be as soon as yesterday. We have tried to speak to members of the KMPDU. They have gracefully declined. They're saying it's been a long journey for them. It's been heartbreaking. However, we are here with Dr. Ouma Ologa. What does this mean here? I know in the morning you had butterfly. You had a jail term pending over your head. What are you feeling right now?
No, I don't think we had butterflies. It's the court process in one way or another has actually prolonged us as a union and even the government getting a solution. Because number one, it's been one-sided. Number two is that they are bringing, even the parties that took us to court have never shown up on the negotiation. And for us as a union, we are very obedient people. So we'll keep coming to court. But I think what is important for everyone to understand, and even for doctors, for the public, is that doctors put very specific demands. So you give 7 days, you give 3 days, you give 2 months, you give 1 year, you give anything. It is those demands that will take doctors back to work. It's we have sung this chorus about doctors going back to work, but why would you go back to work that you yourself, you said, I want A, B, C, D to be done so that my work can be better, so that I can give the best services. So our appeal to the teams that have been put forward is that they must, first of all, look at the interest of the doctor. There is no doctor's interest and patient's interest. The two are one thing. okay? Because it is not in the interest of government, it's not in the interest of public to take back doctors who are demoralized. So for us as a union, we will go and we will engage, and we have said before that we want mediators on the table, and we are glad that Commission for Human Rights is there. We are glad about everyone else that's coming in. We are glad the SRC is coming in. The fact that they are coming in, they should also look at what is it that the doctors have presented over the last 2 months. It is not just about coming in to get a return to work. We are not interested in a return to work. We are interested in solutions. So if in the next 7 days, and I hope that we get a solution in the next 7 days, but if in the next 7 days there is no semblance of CBA implementation, I can tell you we'll be back here for a fact. But we have said before we were ready for the jailing.
Speaking about that CBA, you have been very categorical that that particular document is legally binding. However, the court as well as other issues are not legal. You have been very...
I was in the dock myself defending that CBA. The court has never ever said that the CBA is illegal. People who have said the CBA is illegal are cartels. Cartels who are holding private sector, cartels who are doing business with Ministry of Health. And you've seen them. Some people us in the Senate, of course, with due respect to our colleague and our Dr. Mashagi, you know, really he should read the ruling. We know that he has interest in the health sector, so I think he pronounced himself in a way that was not right, even for himself, even for the Senate, and that also means that he has already taken a stand. So you can't invite us and you've already taken a stand, and it's useless. So basically what we are trying to say as doctors is that the whole country knows that doctors have an issue. Let the country solve those issues. You know, going round and round and round will not solve those issues. So in the next 7 days, we are appealing to every single Kenyan that let's get back to work. But how do we get back to work? We get back to work by looking at what is it that the doctors are presenting on the table. How can we sort them out? We don't get back to work by first going back to work, and then that is what we have done before. All right. So the CBA is not illegal. It was signed, and even if it is illegal, that's what we want. I mean, you get the point, yeah? It's not illegal, yeah? It's binding.
The parties believe that it cannot be registered in a court of law. They say that you're hanging on to a document that basically cannot push you forward.
The same court said that the CBA should be registered on the 6th of January. And you know why that did not happen? Because again, the government has been trying to frustrate that process. The same court. There is no single court in this country that has pronounced itself that the CBA is illegal. I think let's make that clear. And please, media, please give the correct information. It's not that every Tom, Dick and Harry walking around the streets, stealing public funds, pronouncing themselves, and you think that's the correct position. The correct position is that the court pronounced itself that the CBA was procedurally signed. The CBA should be registered on the 6th of January. The government went ahead to block that process, all right? Just in line with their frustrations on the doctors, so that, cartels, private sector, all of these people. So for us, what we are saying is that we are ready to engage, we will engage, but we will engage on the basis of that CBA.
In the previous meeting, you have been categorical and saying that you want the next meetings to be in the open. Do you expect this coming one to be very open?
That is what the courts have said, and today I can say that that the court has given very clear directions. I wish this happened long time ago, so that we have specific people who also have the mandate to bring a solution. So I think that the court, in its wisdom, have not brought all those parties to tell doctors to go back to work. I think they have brought all those parties so that they can come up with a framework of how to address the doctors' demands. And for us, that is how we are taking it, and I think that's a good decision from the court, and we are very grateful. But we want to appeal to all those parties that you can't come and sing for us, go back to. In fact, if that is the song, we will walk out, and it doesn't matter the 7 days or whatever. People must sit down and look at what is the demands that the doctors are putting forward, and the demands are that we want CBA implemented. And those demands can be summarized into 4. We want issues of employment sorted out, issues of training, issues of working conditions, and issues of pay. I think it's very simple. Yeah.
At what point will you be willing to compromise and go back to work?
We have compromised 7 times. In fact, let me also make it clear that it's the government that has not moved an inch. We were even up to very late last night. We were in these meetings, and one time the government shows a lot of goodwill in terms of how do we move, where have you moved yourself? We say we have moved up to here. Then they refuse to move. Yeah, so we have engaged severally, actually nearly every single day, and there's this resistance from government to move. I think they need to be taught negotiations. The government is the one that needs to be taught negotiations. In negotiations, you come with your position, and when you come with your position, you listen to the other. Yesterday and the other days, we were being asked issues of affordability, issues of sustainability, which we put facts on the table. Even us as a union have done surveys from human resources for health is the most expensive aspect of any healthcare system. In Kenya, you can't, the compatible. So in all other areas of health, and you're not making investments in the issues of human resources for health, which include the doctors, then it means that there's a deliberate attempt to frustrate the doctor, so that the doctor is a forced slave, and that is against the ILO conventions that even Kenya signed up to. But even if we leave the ILO conventions, so if we look at the health indices, for example, maternal mortality reducing, mortality, the only thing in the indices is doctor ratio. That means that every work of 17 doctors.
Leila Mohammed speaking to the KMPDU Secretary General Omar Oluga outside the Milimani Law Courts. If you're just joining us, just a recap that the Labour Relations Court has for the third time in a row suspended the jail term handed over to 7 doctors union officials for 7 days to allow intervention by, among others, KOTU, KNCHR, Council of Governors, AG, KMPDU. It's an interministerial negotiating team, and at least 3 members of these entities should be at the table to make sure they come to an amicable agreement to the end of this industrial action. Now, earlier this morning, that ruling was given following the intervention by KOTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli, and Secretary General of Umbrella Labour Body KOTU appealed to the Labour Court to extend the negotiations for 7 more days. Now, the Labour leader is making his most direct intervention since the doctors' strike began.
As my leaders I had indicated that as authority in industrial relations practice in this country and globally, kindly, as I repeat again, kindly give us more days, and I have asked specifically 7 days. We will endeavor to make sure that we reach a solution.
Earlier this morning, Justice Helen Wasilwa gave the parties 7 more days to reach the resolution to the doctor's strike, which has now entered its 3rd month. Now, this is the 3rd extension of the orders, which would have seen the leaders of the doctors' union going to jail. Now, here is Justice Wasilwa's full statement.
The duty of this court in the long run is to find a solution to the problem. Are you getting me? Yes. So the duty of this court in the long run is to find a solution to the problem. I'm now seeing interventions, albeit a little bit late, from the Secretary General of KOTU, whom I also hold in high respect, being the senior-most trade unionist in this country as the Secretary General, and also seeing the Kenya Human Rights Commission coming in, also too late, because as the Kenya Human Rights Commission, you're also supposed to ensure that human rights are adhered to. But you have been sitting back and doing nothing also up to today when you are appearing at the last moment. I know that the image of the court is also at stake, and the court cannot be taken for granted forever. It must ultimately put its word and stamp its feet and finish off this case, because a case must come to an end. We cannot let it continue forever. But the intervention that I'm seeing today is a very welcome intervention from the Secretary General of KOTU and the Human Rights Commission. And I believe there could be other interventions that could really resolve this problem, which interventions have not yet come. And therefore, I'll still exercise my discretion. The ruling is ready and I want to read it. But exercising my discretion, I'll want to give these interventions a chance. The new interventions that are coming in today, I'll want to give them a chance. And therefore, these are my directions. That a meeting will be convened under the leadership of the Secretary General of KOTU, Mr. Francis Atwoli, can be co-chaired by the Kenya Human Rights Commission. And I want this meeting to include the following parties: the Council of Governors, the Attorney General, the Kenya Medical Practitioner and Dentist Union, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Labor, SRC, and my directions are that this meeting must be held as soon as possible, as soon as yesterday. Mr. Atwoli, you have said that you never lose. I hope you not lose this battle, because I'm entrusting this issue to your hands to resolve it and report back to this court within 7 days, as you have asked. I want to say that we cannot have the entire Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union officials in this meeting, which means that every organization that I've mentioned will be able to bring 2 or 3 people at most on the table. Only 2 or 3 on the table to talk. Because when you have the whole group like they are standing in court, they cannot negotiate. Negotiations cannot go on with everybody present. There must be a few people who will be able to talk on behalf of the rest.
Madam, I'm agreeing that you include the Federation of Kenya Employers. Thank you.
FKE. So the people I'm putting on the table from this moment, because I haven't been invited into it, I've been asking for an invitation, I've not been invited. Today I've been invited to try and resolve this issue. KOTU, Kenya Human Rights Commission, the government agencies,
Kenya National.
Kenya National?
There is Kenya National Commission on Human Rights.
Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. So which one is yours?
Kenya National Commission.
Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, the Council of Governors, the Attorney General, the union officials, the Ministry for Finance, FKE, SRC. Who else have I left out? I think Public Service Commission. Those are the agencies I've stated who will be included in this meeting. And I'm talking and I'm saying who is going to be present. Those officials I'm saying, the Ministry of Health is under the Public Service Commission. So if the Public Service Commission is there, the Ministry of Health is there. And the AG is there, the Ministry of Health is there. The AG is standing in for all of them. So all this will come in, and I've said 7 days. If Mr. Atwoli will let me down, I'm extending this job to you. I'll proceed because the ruling is ready and deliver my ruling on Monday, the 13th of February. So we mentioned this matter on 13th of February. The sentence is further suspended, and don't take this court for granted thinking that suspension is cowardice. It is not. This court has wide powers, but it's also exercising these powers with mercy and justice. So don't take it for granted. By 13th of February, if there is no solution, the court will make its statement. And that is the order of this court.
Earlier on, Justice Helen Wasilwa handing her verdict on the ongoing suspended jail term to the 7 union doctors union officials. She has suspended that jail term for the 3rd time now, and it's interesting to hear her say that this should not be taken, that the court is not in control of this. They are still in control, but keeping in mind that they should also be in a position to give dialogue a chance. Now we cross over to our newsroom where our in-house lawyer and reporter Ken Mijungu is standing by. Now, Justice Wasilo has made it very clear that the image of the court is at stake and that people should not continue taking it for granted and that a case cannot go on forever. What does that mean legally?
It's just concerned the judge that this is the 3rd time, Gladys, they're postponing giving a ruling on this case that has been going on for probably the last 60 plus days or so. So it concerns the judge that each time this matter comes to court, she has to exercise her discretion and call for a meeting of mind, sort of, so that she gives dialogue a chance, and justice must come to an end at some point. There needs to be an end to a case. So the more the court keeps on doing this, is the more questions arise as to the standing of the court in the running of this country as an independent arm of the government. So the concern about the image of the court is, how long will I as a judge keep on postponing a ruling? And as she mentioned, Gladys, the ruling is ready. She just wants to read it. However, today it's about the new interventions that have come through, and particularly in the person of Kotu Secretary General, revered world over. He is actually one of the people who, when they speak touching on labor relations issues, people hear them, people understand. So with this new intervention, she comes in and says that the decision of the court to suspend ruling should not be interpreted as cowardice. It is the first time Judge Wasilwa is being brought into this matter and being asked to intervene, and she made that clear, Gladys. So by bringing all those parties together, again, she's putting the image of the court at stake. What will people say after this? Is it that the court is unable to make a determination? Is it that the court is unable to deal with this matter? And look at it this way, Gladys. The doctors are looking for a solution. The government is held by the throat, is looking for a solution. Patients in hospitals and those who have been taken back home are looking for a solution. There are people who have not got any kind of treatment for the last few days. So it concerns all these people that this keeps on going on, because a patient sitting at home wants to say, oh, the judge ruled today, the officials are in jail, and the doctors are afraid they're going back to work. And you know, the government is waiting and saying, we have tried to talk to these people, including the president on the 4th of January. They're not hearing us. And then the doctors are saying, we are tired, we really need to go to work. Look at Oluga when he was speaking to the journalist. He said, we were trained to treat people, to work in hospitals, not to stand here and talk, Gladys. So that's the reason why the image is at stake.
I have to ask, she said this court case cannot go on forever. Legally, is there a time limit as to how long a case should go on?
Yes, there is, but in particular instances, for example, there is this say that has become a cliche saying, justice delayed is justice denied. However, the flip side is, you hurry to hand over justice or met justice upon someone, and then there is miscarriage of justice. So the maxim operates within a reasonable time where a case should be dispensed with, but it does not prescribe a specific time limit, like this case must be done in 2 months or this case must be done in 1 month, because there might be a list of 70 witnesses, Gladys, and one witness will speak for the whole day, for the whole court session. It means you'll have 70 days for 70 witnesses to be called. However, that time can be limited by doing probably 2 witnesses per day, so it's 35. So there is no specific time limit prescribed in the procedure codes, but there must be an end to justice.
Okay,
it cannot go on forever.
Can we know there are other ongoing industrial actions, say that of the lecturers? Are there any lessons that probably can be translated or applied to that industrial court going forward?
Could you just repeat your question, Gladys?
There are other industrial actions that are at play. As we speak, the lecturers are also on strike, and they have also gone against the court order not to go on strike. So are there lessons from the doctor's strike that actually can be applied to the lecturers' strike legally?
Legally, every court is handled with its own merit. So the doctor's strike cannot be used to measure the lecturer's strike. However, the only constant here is this is a labor dispute that has to go through a labor court. The lessons that can be learned from the top of my mind, for example, Gladys, is how Dr. Oluga was speaking. And I'll just like to read a few things he said. Until the CBA is fully implemented, we will not go back to work. The second thing he said, when there is no deal, there is no deal. It means we can go on with these meetings for 2, 3, 4 months, but so long as there's no deal, and he said we know when there is a deal. Then he says that it doesn't matter how many doctors you call in for negotiation. Remember, the judge put maximum 2 or 3. Whether you call 1 doctor or 2, the message is the same. And then he said that if the meeting does not yield fruit, they will walk out of that meeting. Now, what is the lesson here? The lesson is they must sit on the table and talk. There must be dialogue. Remember, Gladys, we're back where we were when the strike began. With all these hardline stands, I heard Dr. Lucas say, for example, that they have been willing participants of these negotiations, and it is not the government that has been coming to equity with clean hands, so to say. And then he goes back and talks about this and forgets that he has given his own hardline position. So to me, the lesson that can be learned going forward is there must just be dialogue. They must sit. Whether the government wants to push them through the court to the wall, it will not matter. They'll just have to sit and talk. The lecturers will sit and talk with the government. And remember, this is a new intervention, Gladys, and for the first time, the Council of Governors, the Attorney General's office, the union, that is KMPDU, the Labor Ministry, the Finance Ministry, the Central Organization of Trade Union, FKE, the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights, and SRC are going to sit on the table. Traditionally, Gladys, you know who sits on that table? Minister of Finance, Minister of Labor, SRC, and the Labor Union. Finally, they bring all these people on board, Kenya National Human Rights Commission, then it looks as though they will get a solution. And this is the lesson. Even the lecturers, they're unrelenting. If you had the sound bites the last few days, they're unrelenting also. So you might just find that they will have to constitute such a committee to sit with them to agree, because if the president could not make a deal with the doctors, Gladys, who will?
Okay, now Ken Mijungu, there's something that Justice Wasilwa said, that she has finally been invited to intervene, and that's why she's putting in her word into this. And Court Secretary General also said he's been staying away from the talks because he was also waiting to be invited into the talks. Now, legally, what does that mean? Does it mean you cannot just walk into this even if you're seeing it's getting out of hand? Legally, what does being invited into this mean?
It's simple. A judge is a neutral arbiter in every situation. They are the protagonist, and then there is the other party. So the judge stays there as a neutral party, help with the officers of the court, who are the lawyers, to come up with an appropriate determination that serves justice to both parties. So the aggrieved party walks out of court feeling that yes, my interest was served, and of course the person who filed the case, if he wins, also walks out of court feeling that I'm satisfied with that ruling. So the judge must stay impartial. So legally, she is not supposed to be involved in the case. She is that neutral party that just sits and listens to both sides and come out with a discussion. However, for her to be invited in discussion, it's very important and significant in that for the first time she finds reason to really want to sort out this matter once and for all. Remember, each time she has postponed this, she usually says, I'll exercise my discretion. But trust me, that discretion is handed over to her by law. It's not exercised without, in a vacuum, handed over to her by law. That's why she can say, for example, someone should be jailed for 2 months with an option of a fine, or without a fine. So she'll choose, do I give this person option of a fine and jail sentence, or just jail sentence, or just an option of a fine only. So that discretion is handed over by law. So for her to be invited into this shows the manner in which she's also committed, probably fatigued by coming to court, and each time she has to hear about this case. So finally the parties are telling her, hey, help us sort this once and for all. And what does she do to do that? She convenes a committee and says, you people, I want you to sit and in 7 days come back to me and give me an outcome. And that's why she brought in almost those 10 agencies, government agencies, NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and just neutral parties such as KOTU into this. So yes, it's the first time she shows that commitment, and these parties are telling her, help us. So that's why she's been invited. But trust me, even that is handed over to her by law, because tomorrow someone will go and question and say, but you see, you should have been the neutral arbiter. Why did you come in to help us? So she has to wait to be invited.
All right. Thank you so much, Ken Bijungu, speaking to us from our newsroom. He is our in-house lawyer, and of course, our reporter, giving us an interpretation of the legal technicalities of that ruling by Justice Wasilwa this morning that has suspended for the 3rd time that jail term of 7 doctors union officials. They have until February 13th to get the mediations going and find a solution by then. And speaking of which, our reporter Sharon Baranga is outside the Milimani Law Courts, and she has the latest. Sharon?
Thank you, Gladys. So right now we are still at the Milimani Law Courts, but the doctors are on their way to Kitale to bid farewell to Dr. Eunice Wasonga, one of their own who passed on last week. And right now we're joined by Leila Mohammed, a colleague of mine who's been following the industrial action for quite a bit of time. Maybe Leila, you can just paint for us a picture. You're inside of the courtroom. You can paint for us a picture of how the courtroom was like when the judge was talking.
Well, I've been sort of a resident in this Milimani Commercial Court for some time. I have not been in a position to see so many police officers inside that particular court at one time. This morning, when we were in that room, the first thing that really stood out for me was that there are about 7 officers from the Kenya Administration Police. When the doctors arrived at around 9:02, they were able to be asked to stand at the dock by the judge, Helen Wasilwa. She said that on this particular day, she expected them to be at the dock, so the 7 members of KMPDU were there. They stood there. They say I was in a position to speak to Dr. Oma Uluga earlier and asked him if they had butterflies, but they say they were calm, they were cool, they were collected. Remember, before 26th of January this year, they had been taken through some form of counseling by IMLU organization. They were saying that they are capable and they are ready to go to jail. However, I was seated just opposite the dock, and I was able to see some of the members really go back to the religious texts and just be comfortable and reading through the books and the words of the Lord to keep them comfortable, to give them comfort this day. They were ready to go to jail. However, they have escaped this for another 7 days. We saw Francis Atwoli coming into the courts these days. However, the lady justice saying it was albeit too late. So we were asking him, why has he come so late in the game? He says he's a senior figure in administration of trade unions in the country, and he believes that sending these officers to jail will just prolong the system by another 30 days, however, not really bringing something tangible to the table.
Maybe Leila, I can take you back a little bit. Perhaps, would you know why there was such a heavy presence of police officers? Because even from outside here, we had anti-riot police officers, manning this area. Maybe do you have an idea why the heavy presence of security?
I probably might not be privy to what the commandant of police in Nairobi would be thinking. However, seeing that the doctors have been having demonstrations more more than once. This has not been the first time that we are seeing doctors camping out here as they await sentencing of their 7 members in court number 305. I believe it was just a strategy by the police to ensure that the peace has been kept. However, like you saw, the numbers were so small as compared as to what we've seen before. By Tuesday this week, this entire street was full of doctors from across the country. Today we saw by my seeing, less than 100 doctors who are here today. However, you saw the enthusiasm of these doctors. They say they will not be intimidated no matter how small their numbers. There are only 4,000 legally registered doctors in this country, such a small number, as you're aware.
You have interacted with these union officials for quite a bit. Maybe you can tell us what they were feeling when they were coming to court, if you've talked to one of them, or maybe, like, for example, Dr. Oluga.
In my interaction with Dr. Uma Oluga, he says at the end of the day, it is the quest for justice, the quest for Kenyans to find better quality healthcare systems. They say it is a matter of a collective bargaining agreement that was signed in 2013. He has been gracious enough to state that no organization has ever said that that document is illegal. He has categorically stated that even Judge Helen Wasilwa did not state that particular document is illegal. However, what he says is that will be their main agenda, their main bone of contention when they go to the negotiating table. Francis Atwoli, the Secretary General of COTU, he will be the man in charge. He will be the main mediator. There are about 7 government entities that have been asked to be on that table. We expect Office of the Attorney General. We expect the Council of Governors to be represented. We expect the Ministry of Finance to be represented. We expect so many more individuals to be here. And before we just wind up, there's been a misconception, as the doctors say. They say they do not want a 300% increment. However, according to one Dr. Mesikela, he says when they do the mathematics, it just comes down to about 167%, and that is what the doctors are asking for, not 300% as has been recorded by so many times in some sections of the media.
Okay, so from what we are getting is for the next 7 days there will be more negotiations, and right now COTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli will be the mediator now in these talks, because the doctors have been claiming that the doctors have been claiming that the government has not been consistent in the negotiating tables, and perhaps that's maybe why they were calling for a mediator now to come and dilute the talks.
Well, Sharon, this is a new leaf. Let them sit on the negotiating table, and we genuinely hope by the end of 7 days there will be some form of white smoke for Kenyans.
We have been live at the Milimani Law Courts, and now we hand you over to Gladys.
Thank you, Sharon Baranga and Leila Mohammed, speaking to us and giving an in-depth outlook on this ongoing strike that has been going on for 61 days now. Now, that judgment earlier on in the morning by Justice Wasilwa has, for the 3rd time in a row, suspended that jail term for the 7 doctors' union officials. And of course, a lot has been going on in that courtroom and outside it. But interesting enough, while we were speaking to the KMPDU officials, they were actually very adamant that today there will be no demos in honor of their own who passed on last week, and most of them are making their way to Kitale, where she will be laid to rest. Now we are joined in studio by our in-house social media expert, Kimani Mbogwa. Kimani, a lot has been going on social media pertaining this judgment. What do you have?
Yes, actually, people are actually expressing their sentiments concerning the Judge Wasilwa postponing the decision. Now, we have Mungai Kihanya, who says, I think Judge Helen Wasilwa is indecisive. Either jail the union leaders or set aside her judgment. Indefinite suspension equals indecision. So a bit of uncertainty there from Mungai. We have someone else here, Jason Makili, says Judge Helen Wasilwa has expressed some mercies and justice in her today's ruling. giving a window for more negotiations to end the stalemate. So basically, still more uncertainty around the issue, but we are still following the conversation on social media. You can use the hashtag NTV today and to share with us your sentiments concerning this.
Thank you, Kimani Mbogo, an in-house social media expert. We shall be bringing to you more of your reactions. Remember that hashtag is NTV today. Well, it is that day that Justice Wasilwa has given that recommendation that she actually is suspending that jail term for the third time for the 7 union doctors officials. She has said she's given them a 7-day window to make sure that they go to the negotiating table with, among others, KOTU, KNCHR, Council of Governors, AG, themselves, of course, Ministry of Finance, Labor, and other entities, and at least 2 or 3 of each of these entities should be on the table to make sure they find an amicable solution by the end of those 7 days. Well, time to take a short break. We'll be back with more on NTV Today.
Once you replace negative thoughts with positive ones, you'll start having positive results.
Tegua chapana 29025 ushinde mamilioni ya pesa. Kuna hadi milioni 30 za kushinda. Ni ushindi wa